Albert began to enjoy the spoils. He was a man who appreciated the finer things, not for the status, but for the engineering. He bought a Mercedes-Benz for the weekends, a Range Rover for the daily grind, and then he sawed a silver Aston Martin, the kind of car that whispered success in every curve of its hand-beaten aluminum body. He paid for it in cash. Genuine, laundered cash, scrubbed clean through 1,000 small purchases. He was living the American dream, one inkjet drop at a time. He felt invincible. He was the alchemist, and his city was his kingdom. Chapter 5. The Blood Money Logistics. The expansion of the Talden network was as rapid as it was ruthless. By mid-2006, the townhouse in Lawndale wasn't just a home. It was a high-output manufacturing facility. Goldberg was no longer just an assistant. He was the foreman of a two-man assembly line, working 12-hour shifts while Albert obsessed over the digital masters. The distribution had seeped into the very fabric of Los Angeles crime. Troy Stroud had opened the gates to the gangs the streetwashers. These were young men, often no older than 16, who were given a packet of 1000s. Their job was simple and repetitive. Go to a shopping mall, enter a store, buy a pair of socks or a candle, and return with $90 in real currency. The mall is your office, Stroud would tell them, his voice echoing in dark parking garages. Keep the receipt. If anyone asks, you bought it for your mama. You take one note into each store. Never two. You hit the food court. You hit the department stores. You hit the kiosks. You get caught. You're just a kid with a bad bill you found at a bus stop. You mention my name, and you won't make it to your first court date. The gangs loved the product. It was cleaner than dope. It didn't smell. It didn't require scales. And the cops weren't looking for paper in the pockets of teenagers. They were looking for rocks in their socks. But with volume came the first tremors of trouble. In a small apartment in South Central, a young gang member named J-Rock got greedy. He tried to buy a PlayStation with 8 of Albert's hundreds at a Best Buy. The manager, a veteran of the retail wars, didn't use a pen. He looked at the serial numbers. They were identical. 1 second, let me check the back for the warranty, the manager said, his face a mask of corporate calm. J-Rock realized his mistake too late. He bolted for the door just as the mall security arrived. In the ensuing scramble, he dropped the bills. They ended up in a local police evidence locker, and within 48 hours, they were on a plane to Washington, D.C. Back in the specimen vault, Kelly Harris looked at the new batch. Identical serial numbers. H2, H38. This isn't a trickle anymore. She noted, this is a flood. Chapter 6, The Ghost in the Machine. The investigation into the H2, H38 note was a study in professional frustration. The Secret Service was the elite, the protectors of the currency and the presidency. but they were being outmaneuvered by a man with a Staples Rewards card and a penchant for hairspray. Matthew Mayo was a man of meticulous, almost painful detail. He spent his nights at the L.A. field office, surrounded by stacks of forensic reports from the specimen vault. He knew the chemical composition of the ink, the weight of the newsprint, and the specific dot gain of the printers used. He had become an expert in a shadow industry. "Look at this," Mayo said, pointing to the enlarged image of a fake 100 on his monitor. "He never changes the plate numbers, H2 and H38. In a real mint, these change with every plate. This guy, he's using a single digital master file. It's his signature. It's as if he's proud of it, or as if he thinks we're too stupid to notice." The agents were hitting walls at every turn. They would arrest a passer at a mall, usually a young man with a single fake bill and a pocketful of real change. "Where'd you get it, kid?" Mayo would ask, sitting in the sterile, airless interrogation room. "Found it on the street." "You found a $100 bill with the same serial number as the one we found on a guy in Chicago yesterday. That's quite a coincidence. Leonard, you should buy a lottery ticket." The kid would just shrug and ask for a lawyer. The gangs, the Crips, and Bloods had integrated the counterfeit cash into their drug operations. It was a cleaner product. You didn't have to worry about the D or rival gang stealing your stash of coke. You just printed more paper. It was the ultimate drug, one that never ran out. But the sheer volume began to create ripples that couldn't be ignored. Retailers like Target and Walmart were reporting massive quarterly losses. The hot potato was being passed so fast that the economy was starting to feel the burn. The break the service needed didn't come from a high-tech surveillance operation. It came from a nervous man at an H&M in a suburban mall on January 14, 2008. He tried to buy $1,000 worth of clothes using 10 H2 H38 bills. He was shaking, his eyes darting around the store. He didn't have the cold, street-hardened stare of a gang member. He was a regular guy, a father who had been lured in by the promise of easy money. In the interrogation room, Mayo leaned in close. "You're not a criminal. Leonard, you're a guy who made a mistake. Tell me who gave them to you. And maybe you don't spend your 60s in a federal bunk." The man cracked. He gave them a name that led to a mid-level dealer, which eventually led to Troy Stroud. Chapter 7: The Cat and the Mouse. Mayo and Toledo began shadowing Troy Stroud with the patience of hunters. They watched his white Range Rover glide through the sprawling streets of L.A. They saw him meeting with figures in parking lots. The exchange is quick, practiced, and professional. They convinced an informant to go undercover. "Stay calm," Mayo told him as he fitted the wire. "Just buy the product. Don't ask questions about the source." The informant met Stroud at a restaurant. Agents listened from a van nearby. Stroud was in a talkative mood. "See this 20?" Stroud said,